Give the stream a second to catch up, but
and share your screen.
Fine. Now shush. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Gospel of Comics, Saturday. We are trying to do something a little bit different every week for the next couple of weeks, just to see if we can find some formats that work for us and things we enjoy doing that's not just reading storylines and talking about them in the literal sense. So we're going to put a little spin on it every now and again. And this week we have decided to do something called a storyline showdown. That is where my illustrious co-host Ayrton, say hello, Ayrton.
What up?
No. Say hello. We don't talk like that here. Careful, or I'll
Hello, everybody.
careful, or I'll expose you for how you talk to me in my Twitter DMs. Cool beans. Who the hell says that in fucking 2018?
Dude, I say that all the time. Don't even go there.
Anyway, now that I'm done giving him a ration of shit, he suggested the storyline Spider-Man One More Day, and just so we didn't just look at Marvel or just look at DC or anything like that this week, I chose DC 1 Million in honor of the Vic Mignogna lawsuit dropping and his quest for over $1 million in damages. So this week I also included the link to Vic Mignogna's war chest on GoFundMe in the description of the stream here. So like Nick Rekieta says, if you can't afford to contribute to it, don't worry about it. But every share of it on Facebook, on Twitter, on your YouTube channel, anywhere you can get it out, just put this thing out there. We want to get it up to at least $200,000 so that we can see some more hilarious people be sued for being idiots. So we'll plug that again, probably one or two more times in the duration of the show. Let's see if anybody's here yet. It looks like Becky and Old Angry Normie are in the chat. How's it going, guys? Old Angry Normie, welcome to the program.
Make sure you say your hail failures before entering the church.
Oh yeah. Before, after, during, hail failures. We're actually going to start hailing Failure's beard until it grows back.
Yeah, we need to put some fertilizer on his face or something.
Right. So, just in that regard, let's go ahead and start this up, shall we?
We shall.
We're going to talk about each storyline individually, and probably the first hour of the show, we're just going to go through both of them. They're not very long, 4 issues each. A couple of the issues are deluxe issues. We're going to briefly go over the basic premise of what's going on, talk about some of the characters involved, what we like about it, what we didn't like about it, and then we're going to discuss them in comparison to one another for the second part of the show. I think that's how this is going to work.
In the first ever storyline showdown.
That's correct. But anyway, feel free to chime in. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat, and if you have any attachment to either one of these stories, if you think they're great, if you think they're awful, feel free to chime in, because we will definitely let you know what we think. So, starting off, I figured we would go with Spider-Man One More Day. It's the Amazing Spider-Man storyline. This is the suggestion Ayrton made. It was 2012 4 issues of every Spider-Man title in circulation at the time, but it's a very controversial storyline, and we'll talk about that more at the end. But he knows that it is a storyline that I am not particularly fond of, so I think he just chose something that we could be adversarial
No, I would never.
on. Sure. But right here we got J. Michael Straczynski, Joe Quesada, that guy. Uh, Joe Quesada on pencils, Danny Miki on inks, and Richard Isanove on colors. And the only reason I have that, but all of these people, their names are at the bottom. Joe Quesadilla's on there twice. Axel Alonso's in there. And these names are becoming more and more recognizable. Though Straczynski, I do appreciate as a writer. I don't know about his personal politics. I know about Joe Quesadilla. He's a bitch. But I mean, credit where credit is due. His pencils are pretty good in this.
Wouldn't the word you're looking for rhyme with duck?
Yes, it would. It would mean that he displays no will, no testosterone. The incapable of showing strength, I think, is what it means in the Masterson the Masterson Maddox lawsuit, because the court had to define it. Um, we'll leave that there. But if you want to go ahead and open up, I figure I'll let you go through this one since it was your suggestion. I'll chime in.
All right. Now, so this is after the Civil War event, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
right?
This took place after Civil War.
After the main event, I guess.
Well, yeah. Well, we don't actually believe that Civil War II happened, but I believe Civil War was what 2008. So I could be wrong on that. It could have been closer to 2010, but I think it was closer to 2008. But Civil War had happened, and Spider-Man is essentially a criminal.
Yeah. Well, first part of the whole him initially joining Tony's side is he had to reveal his identity to the public, and then he found out Tony was tracking him through the Iron Spider suit, and he got pissed off and told Tony to fuck off.
And yeah, that's pretty accurate.
That's my synopsis of it. So we open up here with Aunt May on life support in a hospital room. We're not told quite yet why she's there. Should I spoil it or should I wait for that?
No, go ahead. However you want to do it. Just let me know when you want me to change scenes.
Okay.
So
she.
I mean, if you had been reading The Amazing Spider-Man up to this point, you would already know it. So I mean, it's not really revealing.
Yeah,
anything.
That's true. Yeah. So the Kingpin sent a hit out on Peter as they were hiding out, and because of his spidey sense, he was able to dodge the bullet, but it hit May.
Right.
And that's where we find ourselves at this point. You can go ahead and go to what's next.
Yeah.
You would think I would remember all the images I pulled to send you.
Yeah, that whole wait for the last minute thing. Let's just call it the Marvel method.
There we go. So while he's pulling that up, I happen to have a hard copy in front of me.
It's up. Is the screen share not coming through?
Oh. Yeah, there must just be a delay on it.
Oh, okay.
So, obviously, Peter's pretty pissed off, and he's determined to find some answers.
Right.
Basically, and get help, specifically from Tony, because he blames him for this. So he swings off in his civilian clothes.
Mm-hmm. Because
which
what is I think
is
he says.
interesting.
I think he says, "What's it matter? Everybody knows who I am anyway."
Yeah,
I mean, the
and
traditional. Well, let's just be honest here. It's this, and I think a lot of people forget this, but Spider-Man has increased durability and increased strength from being enhanced by a spider. It's not just the agility thing. So when he was wearing his cloth costume, I mean, it may have had a little padding to it in some places, but it was always just kind of depicted as skin tight spandex. Some of those beatings he took, that suit really didn't do him any favors except keeping his identity hidden.
yeah,
So, didn't mean to interrupt there, but continue. I mean, I think that once his
no,
identity was revealed, it was fine to be maskless because, well, these street clothes seemed to, give him a little more protection than that
yeah,
costume did.
yeah, je- yeah. Jeans have better protection than spandex.
Yeah.
Not that I know from personal experience or
Uh,
anything.
oh no, I won't release the photos.
Might get us more followers.
Don't flatter yourself.
So he breaks into Tony's Tony's mansion, and Tony proceeds to uh, fuck him off right out the window.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, just like, get the fuck out. What are you doing in my
Yeah,
home?
yeah, no questions, just completely
You're
okay
you're you're
with the next one.
roboting
So they have a big fight.
you were
Oh,
roboting a bit there for a
can you hear me?
second. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay, I'm good now.
Yeah.
All right, so they proceed to
Okay, as soon as you start talking, it doesn't like
and
you.
um, there's better.
Yeah, yeah, you seem good now. We'll wait till you start
Okay.
describing something again, and then it'll break up. But go ahead.
So Tony and Peter start fighting in an alley,
Hmm.
and Tony starts blasting him with his repulsor beams or his unibeam, whatever it is,
A little bit of both.
and
A little bit of both.
a little bit of both. And so Peter just lets his webs completely unleash, which he's never done before
Right, and I
up
think
until this point.
if I'm not mistaken, isn't this where he has the organic web?
Yes,
Okay,
which yeah, I can never keep track of
they changed that so
when
much.
that. Yeah, it's annoying. I don't know what do you like better, the organic webs
No, no, I
or
like
the?
I like the sci-fi web shooters.
Yeah,
Um,
I kind of like the organic webs, but
I feel like you can do more with a limited supply of webbing, if that makes sense as a story element.
that's true.
Which
Yeah, that's fair.
it puts him in more crunch-worthy situations where his webs run out and he needs them, and he just kind of has to work through it rather than it being dependent on his blood supply and adrenaline or whatever that particular writer wants it to be.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. I go back and forth, but it
yeah.
really
So
depends on the writer. I don't mind Straczynski here because he didn't like abuse it, if that makes sense. He didn't make a big deal out of it. He just gave us one cool shot with it.
right, and
And
so
the adrenaline rush was probably what it really. But I think what we're getting to here is that he strings he strings Iron Man up just trying to get the money for Aunt May's hospital stay or whatever and her treatment. And he tells him that just as much as I'm responsible for this, you are, because it was under your tutelage that I took my mask off, and you did nothing to protect those people I love because you were coming after me.
yeah,
So that really kind of resonates home when you think about it because honestly, Spider-Man was loyal to Tony Stark and took a lot of bad decisions under his tutelage. But Tony Stark eventually relents, even though he can't directly help Aunt May
Yeah.
because it'll implicate him. He basically sends Jarvis to do it. Here's $2 million.
Yeah.
I know you love May Parker. Go help her.
Mm-hmm. Now, where... Yeah, that's about all the gist of that. Not much else happens here besides this ending shot where he decides to swing off and find some way to save her.
Well, I think the one thing you're skipping over is that when he gets the money, when Jarvis comes with the money, the doctor just tries to convince him, like, look, there's nothing medics can do to save her. We can make her so comfortable that she'll never feel another ounce of pain, but there's nothing we can do to save her life. And that's when Spider-Man just like, you know what? No, I went and got you a bottomless paycheck. Now I'm gonna go find something that can do it. Me, Peter Parker, and it Peter Morgan, excuse me. They were checked in under false names. Peter Morgan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the end of issue one there. Solid issue, good establishing point, and I personally like it when comic books have, I don't know, an arc that goes over several titles as opposed to a sequential series. I don't know if I'm alone in that or not. I like the weekly issues that have story arcs, but I also like it when they take and they stretch a story arc over several comics and it all comes out within the same week, kind of thing. Within the
Yeah.
same week or 2 weeks, instead of having to wait 2 to 4 months for this much story, it would all come out fairly quickly, and it
Right.
it it was a good marketing technique, I think, back in those days because it would get you to buy titles you wouldn't necessarily buy
Yeah.
otherwise. That's just me
Yeah.
though.
So,
I
yeah.
do wanna take umbrage with one thing before you start into the second issue though. On the
Okay.
cover of these books, it's got that still only 399 cents. That's a slap in the face because in the middle of the trade edition of this, they put in two classic comics to kind of explain a couple of the characters and the situation, like the
Yeah.
marriage of Spider-Man and the first appearance of Mephisto. And what were
Hmm.
those? Like 45 and 60 cents?
Maybe.
Yeah. So saying it's only 3.99, still only. Marvel, what are you doing? You make that price tag as small as you can. You bury it in the corner like you do now because you're not proud of it, you assholes. You don't be proud of charging $4 for a comic book. Shout
Yeah.
out
For
Alterna Comics and Peter Semelli. Check out his YouTube channel. I'll link it after the show. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. I like when you go on your rants. I find them entertaining.
Good, good.
So Peter goes off and basically he says he's going to need a miracle if modern medical science isn't going to help him, and seeks out the biggest miracle worker in the Marvel universe,
That would
as
be
we
Doctor
can see him.
Strange.
And I'll have to say, in this panel, I like how he still pulls his mask up over his nose to talk to people.
Even though people know his face.
Yeah.
Even though Strange definitely knows who he is.
I don't know. I think it just kind of it shows how deep down he's still kind of a dork. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the classic scenes from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. great, great movies. I think that's might be why I like the organic web shooters, because I have a very big fondness for those movies.
Oh yeah.
Even how cringy the third one was.
I mean, it was. I like to think that it was kind of a callback to when comic books were campy and cheesy, and they were very feel good movie. And honestly, like some people, I still maintain that Spider-Man 2 was probably one of the best Marvel superhero movies ever made.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man 2 was fantastic.
You want to talk about the hands of death?
You know, I might let you do that because you know I didn't have enough time today to entirely brush up on everything in this comic.
Way to be prepared, man. Thanks for
Hey,
carrying your share of the show.
I I,
I'm just
I
fucking with
got
you,
my
Dick.
days mixed up.
Yeah, my man's sitting over here reading hamster comics, even though he told me, "No, we'll do those on Easter." By the way, anybody listening right now, we're doing the adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters tomorrow, the original nine first issues, and let me
And
tell
I
you,
cannot be more excited for that.
let me tell you, these comics could not be published today at all.
It's fantastic. Talk about fourth wall breaks. Suck it, Deadpool.
Uh huh. But anyway, the Hands of Death are an artifact that Doctor Strange summons up, and it allows Spider-Man to basically split his spectral essence into hundreds, if not more, copies, so that he can be everywhere in the world at once where he needs to ask for help from people that might be able to help Aunt May. After Strange says that he can't do it because, he can't fix magical ills. So, we get that, and he's basically telling Spider-Man, "Hey, you're not supposed to touch these. This is not gonna end well." And Spider-Man goes back to the moment that it happens when he realizes nobody can help him. He comes back, he touches the hands of death, and goes back to the moment that May was shot, being attacked by spectral reavers for displacing space and time. Even though he can't stop it again, he just has to relive it. And you get this nice parallel shot with the Ghost Spider-Man and the Peter Parker at the time, just screaming no simultaneously after it happens. But they're pretty cool. But in the end, Peter Parker gets hurt, and Doctor Strange has to save his ass, and then get Peter Parker back to their point in time. It's all very, very convoluted. This particular thing. Like, why can't Strange just kind of pull him back to the real time?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun though.
But yeah, I only got one more scene for this comic, so let's see where we're at.
Yeah, this story does move decently quick.
Oh, oh, we're not going to spoil who this is yet, but remember this guys. Um, basically, this is the lead into issue 3. We have a redheaded little girl standing there talking to Peter Parker about how she can help him, and that's pretty much the end of the issue. Um, we'll just go ahead and jump right into issue 3 now, because this was my favorite issue of the story.
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite one too. So after uh, Peter's kind of sitting there, uh, basically just trying to figure out what to do. There's a voice saying that no, nothing or no one can change that. Uh, but I can, as that last shot showed. And so she proceeds to have him follow her, and they kind of have a little back and forth, and she leads him to this. overweight, dweeby looking guy sitting on a bench all alone.
Right.
And, kind of, they kind of have a little chat. He says that he's basically a computer tech nerd, and
Yeah,
finds out that
he
it's
tests video game software, doesn't he? Like computer games.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, it says computer games mostly. So
right. Um, so from the cover, we can already see that there's something interesting, happening with these characters that he's missing. It's all very. He says it at the end of the issue, but you can kind of read into it in this book that it's all very surreal the way they're interacting with these ancillary characters. Um, we kind of move on, and as does Peter start looking for this little girl after he loses her, and the guy on the bench is like, yeah, one minute she's here, the next she's not. And he thinks he's going to look for her because it's dangerous for her to be out alone or whatever. And he
yeah,
runs across the guy on the bench, and then after he leaves, the guy on the bench is like, I can take you where you need to be. And it's an older gentleman in a very nice town car, um, drinking champagne with technology all over the back seat of it. And Peter's
I'm pretty
kind
sure
of,
it's a Bentley
oh, is it?
or no, a Rolls Royce. Sorry.
Oh yeah, rolls. I was using the term town car like generally, not a
I know.
okay. That roundabout town car
Yeah,
with the rich folk, the 1% have. But
yeah, with hollow screens in the back and
right, right. Um, and champagne. But
yes,
you've got Peter riding around with him, and he's like, I started making patents when I was 19 years old. Uh, I had $10 million by the time I was 21. I've made all of these people that used to make fun of me and you know just I don't know make
basically he got rich and successful out of spite.
right. And he made everyone go to work for him basically. And he drops Peter off in front of a woman in a red trench coat dress. And this is some of my favorite art of the whole series. While you talk about it, I'm gonna look up the artist in this issue because I want to give it credit.
Yeah. So, uh, excuse me. So he's still
There's no excuse for you.
yeah, that's true.
Anyway, sorry about that.
so
I couldn't help it.
so he's still looking for the little girl, and a voice says, "I'm right here," and that cuts to this woman in the red dress, and they kind of go back and forth. I think they're just, I don't think this is the. I don't think you're who I'm looking for, and she says, "I've been waiting for you all your life."
Yeah.
And that kind of, he's kind of like, "Oh, what the fuck? What are you talking about?"
Hmm.
And she kind of, plays some like philosophical twisty word games with him for a minute, and he starts getting pissed off.
Right.
And she kind of brings him back through the time of how he got his powers, and explains then who these other two people are, that they're alternate versions of himself.
Right.
If he hadn't have gotten bitten by the spider, that he would have either became a
Sorry.
lonely, overweight video game tester, or rich, successful tech entrepreneur, but
Lonely.
he's still alone.
Yeah,
Either way, he's still alone.
that
And
that's how the majority of his lives turn out if he doesn't get bitten. I think that's the implication it's trying to make.
yeah,
If you had never been bitten, if that one single instance of your life had been changed, you would not be who you are, and you would not have the love that you have.
yeah, and then um, he keeps getting more and more annoyed with her, and she says, "Listen, you're already fucked. Your aunt's gonna die. There's nothing you can do about it, but I can." And
Right, and that's
proceeds. All right, you do it.
yeah,
And
that's
proceeds to change form into Mephisto, which is basically the devil in Marvel Comics,
um, yeah, yeah, to a certain
more or
degree.
less.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. That's how I always kind of
there's a
equated him to.
there's a couple of different devils, but he's one of them.
Yeah,
But I did look it up. This is Joe Quesadilla again, and again, no matter what the guy says in public, you can't take away this artwork. It's beautiful. I mean,
yeah,
it is
especially
good.
this scene.
It is good. My only gripe with the artwork throughout this comic is I feel like it's very simplistic to a certain degree. Like I feel like a lot of stuff was just kind of reused um, a couple of times. Like there's a few panels, like the panel you mentioned where he didn't get bit by the spider. The spider just kind of fell onto the ground, missing him, and
Yeah,
the lab assistant just steps on it and it never bites anybody. That's the same panel with the foreground changed a little bit. I don't believe that that was redrawn, and I know that's smart work, but I feel like it and there's a lot more full page spreads in this than there is the DC 1 year. I mean, we'll talk about this near the end, but I do want to point that out. While I do have my gripes about it, the artwork that you get is beautiful. And I know
yeah,
that is
and
a normal tactic for comic books to reuse scenes to show the backgrounds and stuff like that. So I'm not taking that away from the guy, but I do feel like we get a lot more artwork in the next book.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense to reuse like backdrops and stuff and just redo the foreground.
Oh no, I know it makes sense.
In my
I'm just saying that I feel like that's something that I could generally criticize in comparison to the book that we're about to look at.
that's fair.
But anyway, like I said, it's not a big retraction. I don't hate the guy for doing it. I wanted to kind of call it out.
Yeah, fair enough. Then what's the next shot you have?
Uh, well, we got Mephisto there, and then
Yeah.
we'll change that over, and then
Okay.
the
But
last scene
so,
from this, and that's just Mephisto speaking to them, and that kind of pulls us right into book 4
yeah.
because Mephisto explains that that's what he wants from them is their marriage, is their love. He wants to undo their marriage, to take that happiness away from essentially God. He doesn't ever say God, but he implies
Yeah.
God. Calling him the one above and things like that. Now, that puts us right into issue 4 because, he basically leads Peter Parker back to Mary Jane and has basically made them both say, if you'll give up your marriage and change your life back to the point where you never knew each other, then I'll save your Aunt May. And that's how we get here.
Yeah. And now this is the part where people were not happy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody ever expected it to end where they said they'll do it. I figured they would figure out a way to trick Mephisto. And to a
Yeah,
certain degree, I think that they did, but at the time, it wasn't that clear.
yeah. So I mean, they they go back and forth kind of for a while. This part is kind of boring. Just
It's a very melancholy issue. There's a lot of heart in it, but the
yeah,
the scenes themselves aren't very exciting. There's not a whole lot of fighty fighty.
yeah. Well, I mean, even the dialogue, it kind of like plays out in this part as kind of like a soap opera.
Right. But they just have a back and forth on the why we should, why we shouldn't.
Yeah,
And then in the end, they just basically kiss and both agree to it. And then,
yeah, and they have 24 hours.
yeah, they spend their
So they,
entire 24 hours standing around in the dark crying on each other.
yeah,
Yeah. It
and so
it either broke your heart or made you angry when it came out. That was basically the general perception of it. But the next morning, Peter Parker wakes up and Aunt May's fine and making breakfast. Nobody knows who Peter Parker is, which that was another thing I don't think he mentioned. That was part of the deal.
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was part of the deal. Is Mary Jane made Mephisto promise to wipe everyone's memory, like make it to where he never revealed his identity during the Civil War.
Yeah,
So
and then
yeah,
and that's pretty much it. And then there's kind of like a kind of tag on, so we kind of see like what his life's like now, and he goes to a birthday party for Harry.
a surprise
Um,
party for Harry's return from Europe.
yeah. Oh, is that?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
my prepared
And
partner, everybody. He
MJ,
picked this book.
it's been a while since I read it. It's been a long week.
I understand. I'll give you a pass. I at least did the
Uh,
reading, chat. You at least have one person on the stream that did the reading and came prepared with the
hey,
facts.
I read your book.
Yeah, 2 hours before the show. Oh, you want to go
But that's
there?
about it.
We can.
Yeah.
But you
All right,
do.
there's a little throwaway line where Flash says like, she's still pissed at you," and he's like, "Yeah, I don't think she'll ever forgive me for," and then it kind of like trails off, and
Yeah. So
that's pretty much it.
right, but you do get them seeing one another in this scene, so it does establish that they might get back together. That's one thing Mary Jane says. No matter what this guy does to us, the person the force that brought us together is more powerful than he'll ever be.
Yeah,
So we will find one another again, and that's pretty much the end of this. Like I said, the writing is fantastic. I think the plot line behind it is where it falls off for me.
yeah. The ending at least, and the reason for that ending. Which, do we want to get into that now, or
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah? So it was the main reason everybody hated it was the story was basically a big retcon to make Peter single again because they felt like they couldn't do enough variety of stories with because they just felt like it was always like, oh, he just has to save Mary Jane, and they thought he worked better as like a single young man as opposed to being married,
Well,
and so they did it as kind of a cop out retcon, and
there
people weren't too happy about that.
there's a precedent for that, but I mean, I can see where they were talking about it. I can understand that logic and reasoning, but there are better ways to do it. I mean, it wasn't much longer after. I think it was what 3 years after that we had Miles Morales come into the MCU. So why couldn't you have a married Spider-Man and a single Spider-Man? Also, in 2016, you started getting a continuous version of, or 2016 or 17, you started getting an ongoing series of the Secret Wars 2015 tie-in the Amazing Spider-Man family or something like that. Uh, it's basically Spider-Man, Mary Jane, and Mayday Parker all as Spider people.
Ah, that
Amazing
sounds
Spider-Man
hokey.
renew. It's Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. It's actually pretty interesting. I liked it.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean it's a little homosexual, but you know I liked it. I like bad comics sometimes. I wouldn't say these are bad, but they're not always fantastic. I feel like
Yeah.
it's pandering to an audience that wanted a married Spider-Man again, but I wanted that, so I bought it, and I feel like that's what it should be like. There shouldn't be any of these comics gate, anti-comic gate feuds where you're like, "Oh, you bought a book, you're a Nazi." Just don't buy the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, just
You
don't
know.
buy the book.
Yeah, it's not hard to not spend money.
Yeah, no shit. Anyway, we're gonna get on to DC 1 million now, and I picked this book, like I said, for the simple reason that the Vic Mignogna lawsuit dropped, and we found out that he's asking for over $1 million in damages, and I wanted to give some kind of homage to that. So you know, here,
Don't let him lie to you. He picked it because both of the stories start with one, and he deep down he's a very poetic guy.
yes, that too, double entendre, I think. Anyway, I literally I sent a picture to Ayrton with it with a clip of the $1 million damage proceeding from the documents, and I was like, this is why, because it's over 1 million. And even though he couldn't see me, I put my pinky up to my lip and I did the Doctor Evil $1 million.
See, I didn't see that you were doing it, but deep down, I kind of figured you were.
Oh man. Um, but anyway, let's just jump right into this. This is it's kind of a doozy.
Yeah.
Um, jump in whenever you feel like it, but I'm just going to kind of breeze through it as quickly and painlessly as I can because let me just be frank
Yeah,
with
I
you
got.
guys. I do not I don't recommend reading this unless you like the 90s style, very fast, very disjointed flashback, flash forward story to
Flash sideways,
right.
flash backwards.
I can appreciate it. This was not the best comic book I have ever read in my life. It is not in the top 10. Uh, we'll get there.
Yeah.
DC 1 million. We start off. We have an auxiliary member of the Justice League who is also an angel. We have Plastic Man. You've got a big giant screen with a lot of little screens. There's been a nuclear explosion, and over 1 million people are dead, and that's pretty much where they throw you in. This is a Grant Morrison comic, so you know I don't say it's the worst comic I ever read. Again, you have to like this kind of book, and that's something that's hard for a lot of people. This particular issue you have to kind of chew through, which I think is a fair criticism of Grant Morrison. He's a fantastic writer, but I think at some points in his writing you kind of have to chew through it to get to the good bits. Um, but it's only the first issue. After the first issue, it's going so fast you kind of get dizzy reading this book.
Yeah. It's either crawl or full speed ahead. There's not really any in between in the story.
So we go forward and we're let know that the scene we just saw was 3 days ago, and then we go back to day one. Okay, so on day one, a Justice League from what is it, 85,000 and something, 86
It was
century,
like
or
80. Yeah, like 85 to 71 or something like that is the year.
Yeah, the 200 and something century. Like it was outrageous. But we get the Justice League from that era, and we basically have equivalents of everyone except Green Lantern and the Martian Manhunter. You've got a Wonder Woman, you've got a Superman, you've got a Flash, you've got an Aquaman, you've got a Batman, and then you have an Hour Man and a Starman. So you don't have a Green Lantern, you don't have a Marvin Manhunter, Martian Marvin, Marvin the Martian. You don't have a Marvin the Martian. Um, don't sue me, Warner Brothers or DC.
I was gonna say Warner Brothers owns DC, don't they? Or the rights to the.
Wait a minute. Does that mean that under that helmet that Marvin the Martian is actually the Martian Manhunter in a different form? Did I just
Or their cousins, at least.
No, but John Jones thinks he's the last Martian. So
That's true, and it would explain Bugs Bunny's odd abilities to be able to seemingly teleport
yeah. Anyway,
and be indestructible.
we're flying off the rails here. I don't even know. I think everyone's left. Becky says we're bad. But anyway, we have the Justice Legion A from the future brought into the Watchtower, and basically they're put through all kind of scans, and everyone introduces themselves. They all ask some weird questions. You find out that there's a family of Supermen, and that Superman's still alive in 8500 to 71 8 or 85 to 71 AD, which say that 5 times fast. Um, Pretty much everybody but Batman accepts to go to the celebration where the Superman Prime is what they're calling him. Which, as a quick aside, is a nod, I think, to Superboy Prime in the Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis, and probably every other Crisis that he appeared in. And I think this book wants to be a Crisis. I think Grant Morrison wanted this book to be a Crisis and just didn't have enough issues to make it a real Crisis.
I mean, it felt like a crisis trying to read it 2 hours before the show.
Somebody comment how many times we say crisis in this, because I feel like we're already at like 10. Anyway,
I mean, I can say it one more time for good measure.
meow. Anyway, we'll get there. But everybody agrees to go to this celebration in the future. They're like, "Oh, it's only going to take a second in your time. You'll be right back, but you'll have spent however much time you needed or wanted, but you'll have only been gone for a second when you come back." And everybody but Batman's like, "Yeah, I'll go." And then Batman gets back to the Batcave and is like encountered by the future Batman. And here's another issue that I had with this. He says, Why did you choose the bat?" And the guy answers, "You'll find out." But then he just starts beating the shit out of Batman and like captures his essence in a bottle.
Yeah, I was so confused at this part.
Right, like this. Right about the time you hit this, you're like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" You're just like, I don't even. You go back, you read it again, you're like, "Yeah, that's what I read." But
And I like how it's kind of like the old Batman cartoon costume.
right, but you start the you start the next side arc. So let's just keep count now. We've got 4 side arcs going on. This really is starting to feel like a crisis. But we enter Young Justice and Arsenal, and you know who is it? Arsenal, Jesse Quick, Supergirl, and who's the other guy?
I actually don't know.
Tempest. That's his name. He's Aqualad Tempest.
Oh, okay.
Um, they find out that Vandal Savage is trying to buy all of these four red Russian rocket suits. Red Rocket. And, he's going to aim them at the U.S. and blow some shit up, right? So you see Supergirl's.
Typical bad guy stuff.
Yeah, he's loading the Young Justice people into these suits and sending them into the U.S. territory to start nuclear war. I have no idea why. He's just like, I'm drinking one of the last four bottles of this wine, and it tastes like garbage. It's very strange, but yeah, we're at like
I,
four side storylines.
I mean, isn't Vandal Savage? Isn't his whole arc just he's old as shit and bored?
Yes,
Isn't
yes,
that basically the reason he does anything?
yes, yes, it is, and most of the time it's at least intriguing. Because we're going to read about Vandal Savage being involved in some shit later on, and it's actually going to be good. It's called Kingdom Come. He's a side character, which is where he belongs. Um, but anyway, you get the shot of the Justice League meeting the future Justice League on Mount Rushmore, and then they're sent into space in some kind of like weird fishhook pattern kaleidoscope full page splash with weird digital planets in the background, and you just wonder what kind of drugs Grant Morrison was on when he told him how to draw this page. You know, you wonder, was he naked in
Probably
his
not as good
bathtub
as
with a typewriter?
probably not as good of drugs as Jack Kirby was when he was designing some of the galactic Marvel stuff.
You take that back. Jack Kirby is a national treasure.
I didn't say he wasn't, but he had to be. He had to be on something. Come on,
But
if you stare at his artwork and listen to Sid Barrett, they line up perfectly.
there you go. Um, you got you've got a you've got a shot establishing the fact that as soon as the Justice League left the Earth in this timeline, I mean, shit immediately just goes haywire. Um, they there's a virus released. It starts attacking machines, people, and everyone gets this weird circuitry splotches all over them, and it looks like they're like dead or passed out, but they're not. So we just move right in to issue number two, uh, and you get a picture of the Atom. Like the Atom hasn't been involved yet. What the fuck are we doing with the Atom? I want to know what the fuck is going on with the four-story arc that I was just shown. But no, 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 no.
Nope, throw a fifth one in.
That's right. We get Blue Beetle landing where the future Justice League is. Can you hear my daughter in the background?
I, I
She's come to
can.
visit. Okay. Yes, you guys will have to excuse me. She's come to visit. Why don't you talk about this for a minute since you just read it? I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll try my best because I'm still confused
Well,
as to what was going on at this point in the story. So
well,
Blue
good.
Beetle
Just
for some reason shows up at wherever the missile hit. I forgot. I forget where it was. Guadala. Who the hell cares or something? And the Justice Legion A are there. Because the Justice League of this time are not around to help, so they decide to go and kind of investigate. And Blue Beetle is a bit unsure of them, and thinks they're criminals and stuff. And I hope Church gets back first because I still don't know what happened in this part here. Hold on a second, everybody. I am super prepared today. I got I've had my days mixed up all week, so this is great for this story. So they they kind of show up trying to figure out what happened. They're talking about Solaris,
All right. So where are you at?
and I was stumbling my way through this part of the story.
Oh, okay. Where?
I was mentioning how they're talking about how they suspect Solaris, and the Martian Manhunter comes forward carrying a charred body.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's pretty awful actually. Like the situation's pretty bad. 1 million people have just died. The virus has just been released. Like Vandal savages shooting rockets at places and killing people. But then you just don't hear about the nuke again for a little while. Like it just kind of brushed off, and then you're introduced to Barda and Steel, and the Atom and the Oracle, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? So the Atom shrinks down and jumps inside the Oracle to try and figure out what's going on and try and fix her. And nobody's supposed to know who she is. And he's like, I can't even tell who you are. All faces just look like moons to me when I'm tiny. And I'm like, that's really not how you talk to a woman, dog.
Which I will have to say, the part where he's going inside of her,
That was
for lack
definitely a
of
joke.
for lack of better phrasing, it was a nice reprieve because it was quite entertaining, his little comments that whole time.
Oh yeah, that was probably one of my favorite parts of this issue. But then again, like I said, I feel like the story just jerks you around entirely too much because then we're on the watchtower with Steel and Barda. And I mean, if this is your first time reading a DC comic, you're gonna be like, "What the fuck's a Barda?" I mean, you can kind of figure out armor, Iron Man, Superman with Thor's hammer guy. um, and I do
See,
have
or you might just think, why is Cyborg wearing a cape and holding Thor's hammer?
right. But I also do love that every time you see just Plastic Man, he's just being completely fucking ridiculous. Like he's never just
Hey,
being like regular. He's just being extra all the time.
hey, they need to have representation for everybody in there, so they have to put him in there being all autistic the whole time.
Well, that's correct. I mean, he is he would be a lolcow. Plastic Man would definitely 100% have a threat on Kiwi Farms if this was real life. Anyway, we skip over there and they're yelling about how Barda can't let them go down to Earth because they'll be infected and your armor will be infected and plot device, plot device, plot device.
Well, we should mention there's the infection is infecting machines and humans, and that's
Right.
basically all we know at this point. It puts weird black digitally spot looking things on your face.
Yeah, like circuitry.
Yeah.
But you eventually get Martian Manhunter breaking up a fight between Firestorm and the Justice League from the future. He's just like, look, enough, stop fighting. And Blue Beetle drops in on him again, like, y'all stop being assholes. Um, Vandal Savage communicates to the world that he's going to blow up some more stuff, and he meant to hit Washington D.C.
And that he's doing it basically just because he's bored.
Yeah, 100%. He's just like, I'm just gonna start some economic and civil unrest, and everybody's just like, all right, whatever. And then our last shot, I've got to say, it's fantastic. You get the last three members of Young Justice loaded into rockets, being shot off into space as literal weapons of mass destruction. I mean, just the implication that over 1 million people have already died and more are coming, and they still haven't really addressed the fact that a million fucking people died. Like, nobody's got a black armband on. Everybody's just like, everybody's just like, oh, we're all gonna die from this virus. Fuck those 1 million people that are dead from a nuclear missile. Anyway,
uh, yeah, this first story was or this first couple stories were kind of crazy from start to finish.
well, I mean, the first two issues, you're introduced to like what 15, 16 subplots. I mean,
I,
why did
yeah,
Batman beat up Batman? Why is Batman a bat in the future again? He said you'll find out. We haven't found out yet. We haven't even figured out what happened to the Justice League in the future. We don't know where they're at. They just went there and they realized that Vandal Savage was in charge with this micro star thing that they're currently building in our timeline. And you're like, what the fuck is happening right now? So you find out that they're building this star thing so that it will absorb the virus from everyone, because apparently that's what it's meant to do. This is just kind of the space time continuum fulfilling itself. This thing knows it has to implement its own invention. If it doesn't, then the people could just go from the future and tell people not to invent it. So you have to create a crisis to 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 engineer its own development. So we get past that, and we see Batman just whipping the shit out of Starman. Which, again, why is this Batman such an asshole?
I mean, Batman's always a bit of a dick.
Yes, but this future Batman is essentially Azrael. He's just like beating the fuck out of people for no good reason. But apparently they figured out that Starman betrayed them by giving this piece of kryptonite to Solaris in their timeline because he was bored, I guess. That's the reason so many people are doing so many things. And I'm getting the feeling that Grant Morrison is bored and really wanted to write a crisis. But Vandal Savage has taken over this like super military weapon, and he's like shooting Martian Manhunter with it at full blast, and Martian Manhunter is the boss. Now, something else to keep in mind for those of you that don't know, Martian Manhunter basically has the same power as Superman, only he's scared of fire.
And can shapeshift.
I said he essentially has the same powers as Superman, and I think at one point Superman did have the power to shapeshift.
Did he really?
There's not a power in the superhero spectrum that Superman hasn't had in some way, shape, or form. He was even electric for a while.
Oh, jeez.
You don't remember Electric Superman in the '90s?
I never really read Superman. I always found him like just too. I don't know.
We'll talk about that after the show tonight. We'll talk about that because we're gonna read Red and Blue Superman now.
Uh, uh, okay.
It's electric. There are two electric Supermen. One's red and one's blue. Nobody knows why. DC had a bad habit of doing shit like that. Like their artists and
I
their writers
can tell.
would just be like, "All right, here's where we're going with the story," and the editors would approve it, being like, "I hope this works," and they would put it out, and no one would know what the fuck was going on for like 6 months until a good writer came in and was like, "This is how and why that happened."
Retcon
I don't, but there's a precedent for it, like the 40s and 50s when Superman split into a red and a blue form of himself as well.
it.
It was some kind of kryptonite's fault because back in the 50s and 60s and 40s and whatnot, Superman stories kind of turned into what flavor of kryptonite are we going to poison him with this week? Is it going to be red kryptonite that makes him angry? Is it going to be black kryptonite that might do something different every time you use it? I mean, I think there's literally every color of kryptonite in those years. I'll do that. Could be a top 10 list
That could be
later on.
there. There we go.
Talk about the different kinds of kryptonite. Anyway, moving on. I'm sorry for the aside. Fucking red and blue Superman, kiss my ass.
Yeah, we're definitely doing an episode on that just so I can hear you rage about it.
um, anyway, you get Batman giving Starman the gravity rod, which is his essential weapon, and then Vandal Savage disappears in the sand dunes and shows up in Egypt somehow. Aquaman can't feel the water in his blood, which is apparently a thing Aquaman can do, and that's fucking creepy and scary. Or no, is that no? That's fucking Tempest that can do that, I believe. So yeah, this just very. Okay, so Vandal Savage gets away. Now keep in mind, there's a Vandal Savage in the future that's orchestrating all of this shit happening in the past, and there's a Vandal Savage in the past that's being a dick as well. This just kind of goes to show you that Vandal Savage is always being an asshole.
I mean, his name is Vandal Savage. I
Uh,
mean, do you expect him to be an Eagle Scout?
let's give a shout out going on Spectre in the chat. Yes, being afraid of black
Hey, Spectre,
kryptonite,
what's up?
being afraid of black kryptonite is very racist. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a story where Superman was black. I'll have to do some digging on that, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
I feel like I need to Google this.
I know there was one where Lois Lane was black. Anyway, they get to the end of the issue, and everybody that's still alive is just kind of sitting around going, "I don't know what we're gonna do." And Huntress is like, "I have some ideas. I know how to save the future." So there we go there, and we're finally into the fourth issue. Okay, now it's been a long journey. I know some of you have grown old and even died in chat. I apologize for that, but we're almost done. Um, they they open it up, and the opening scene of this book just says Death Star, and I'm like, why? And then I remembered this was in like the 80s. I forgot that this was an 80s comic book when I suggested it, and it dawned on me when I started reading this, and I was like, oh. And then I realized it was written by Grant Morrison, and I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. I've been on an acid trip for 3 issues. I've been taking drugs this whole time. This paper has been seeping into my hands, and the ink is
I mean, it
nothing
sure
but
felt like
acid.
it.
But anyway, you open up, and Solaris has just basically gone on a rampage in the future. He's just murdering heroes left and right, and that's again here we are with just a massive amount of murdering taking place, like, and nobody gives a shit. Like, people are just dead.
Yeah, just some casual weekend murder. Who
Well,
hasn't done that?
well, the DC universe is notorious for its mourning scenes. You know, there's always the big gatherings for the mourning of the death of people. In this book,
Yeah,
people just systematically die.
they die because they're bored.
Yeah. But you get the Superman horse guy here. I thought that was pretty interesting. That's the only reason I bring this up, because essentially every hero in the future. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a whole family line of Supermen now. Even though Superman Prime is still alive, he's apparently fostered his own race of people this
Yeah,
far.
which once we get to the ending, I'm just gonna tell you I was very confused about that too.
You want to rage about it a little bit, because we're almost there. I mean, when we get there, do you want to rage on it for a minute?
Sure.
Because I can. But anyway, plot device time. To wrap this book up in the next 40 pages, I guess it was what 25 pages for this issue. Grant Morrison literally just ties up
Yeah, this one was short.
every thread that he can remember. He just ties it up as quickly and sloppily as he can. Uh, uh, there's no Green Lantern in the future because Green Lantern is the weapon. And then you double down on that. So instead of kryptonite that was given to him, it was a trick from the past, and it was a Green Lantern ring. So now we have Oscar Superman with a Green Lantern ring on. Is it a Grammy? It's a Grammy, right? The gold person.
No, I think no, it's Oscars.
Is
No,
it?
you're right.
Okay. I don't know why I ever doubt myself, but yeah, that's that's where we are with this life, and then just the golden Superman comes out with the Green Lantern ring, and everybody's just like, "Ooh, ah, you've been living in the sun for 1,500 or 15,000 years."
Yes, why
Ooh,
is he gold? Is that explained in the comic and did I just miss it?
no, it is not.
Okay, do you have the bit with like the silver woman and all that stuff at the end? Do you have
No,
that
no,
to
I
pull
don't
up?
because that makes me mad.
So he gets something, or do you want to talk about this bit with Savage first?
Okay, let's finish it up first because this is the last
Okay,
scene I have for it. Um,
all right.
somehow in all of this plot device sewing up. Now, see, I read this earlier today again. I've never read it before. Ayrton read it 2 hours before the show, and neither one of us have a fucking clue what's happening.
Okay, and how? Okay, how did Arsenal and Supergirl and Tempest get out of the suits
Oh, they were
and
rescued by
back on
Wonder
Earth?
Woman and Superman and uh, Martian Manhunter and everybody. Like they were rescued in the background. You never saw it happening. They said they have to go try to rescue them, and instead of seeing them be rescued, they just did it, and then they pop back up. Like
Yeah, well, because there was like a throwaway line with Arsenal saying he waited till it got so cold that like it froze, and he used one of his trick arrows to like bust it open or something.
no, no,
And I
no,
was like,
no.
"What?
I think that was Tempest, wasn't it?
Was it Tempest that said
Yeah,
that?"
he manipulated the water
One of them,
molecules in the ice.
or one of them said something about that, and
Right, but
like,
that was the
that's
first
not an
one.
explanation.
But that was the first one. See, it
Yes, but how did he get to the ground?
it doesn't matter. It was water. It was water, dog. Got you, son. Um,
I mean, I did make you read one more day, so.
he did, and I didn't know this was going to be as strange as it was. It wasn't awful. Like I said, there were a compelling story arc. Like the storyline of Solaris was actually
Yeah, that part
entertaining.
was good.
But then somehow, after Solaris is defeated, they send Vandal Savage back in time to the present, where one of the rockets is going to hit him. Like I don't understand. So they're gonna let
And there's
the
people around.
right they're gonna let the nuke go off and kill Vandal Savage, but kill a million people. That's what the Justice
It's
League did.
like, does do like a million people die in each book?
You know,
Because you have the first one with all the people dying. I don't know if the second one.
I think this is the only rocket that ever hit. I think this is the one that Arsenal managed to get out of, or Tempest managed to get out of.
Oh, they sent him to. Oh,
They
okay.
sent him to the point before impact, since apparently they couldn't just stop
Uh,
it.
okay, that was not. I did not pick up on that
Yeah, but
when I read it.
that's it. And I'm gonna take this off the screen. I can't even look at this anymore. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up one. I'm gonna pull up the cover from one, and I'm gonna pull up the cover from another, from one of each, and we'll just work it like that.
Okay. So, and the very end of this story is Kyle Rayner talking to who's he talking to?
Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, he's like kind of.
He's talking to Superman.
Is he talking to Superman?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I was so blown away by that, by this ending bit. I couldn't even remember. So like Superman finds some like silver goop or something.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like flubber in the future, made out of chrome,
Yeah.
and it turns into a woman.
hmm And then he
And
starts
then they
having,
go,
then he starts making out with it.
yeah. Then they go get married, and then Superman's dad is like there and alive and officiating the marriage,
Right.
and I I was so confused.
Yes.
When did Jor-El come back to life?
Well,
What the hell?
this is part of what I like to call DC fan fiction or Elseworlds. I don't think it's actually listed as an Elseworld, but I also don't think it happened in the main continuity.
Oh, okay.
I think
But
this
then
is
why would he be on Earth if Jor-El's still alive?
I think you know what? I just don't think we were on the right kind of drugs to understand this comic book.
That's
I'm
possible.
I'm thinking we were at least one bottle of absinthe and several ounces of mushroom shy of being at a Grant Morrison level of high enough to understand this.
Okay, adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters makes more sense than this story.
Absolutely, it does. Yes. This was in my collection. I've wanted to read it. I've never had time, so I figured we were going to do 4 issue series, and I was going to be nice and pick one at random, and ended up being an asshole to both of us. So I didn't get to read anything I enjoyed today. I
I mean,
liked the
I'm not
pictures.
saying I'm not saying I didn't enjoy parts of it, but the overall story was just so
I liked it.
weird
To,
and
to to be
hard and so hard to follow.
to be honest, I actually did like it for its disjointedness, for all of its flaws. I did kind of like it because it was so bad.
I mean, I mean, I was also stressing because I was like, "Oh shit, I have to read these before the show."
Yeah,
I might go back and reread them like casually and see if they're any better.
yeah. By the way, Spectre, if you came in a little bit late, I did want to say that this is a shill stream for the Vic Mignogna GoFundMe.
It
The
it is.
the link is in the description if you want to share it out. See if we can just get it some more exposure. Let's just do a quick glance and a refresh on the total. Um, looks like we are over $140,000 to that goal. This is the
Nice.
this is the GoFundMe. Let me see if I can pull this up on screen. I don't do a whole lot of finagling with browsers, but I think I can manage this. Let's
Make sure
just
your porn tabs are closed.
look at all those tabs. Actually, they have a built-in browser to OBS, so I don't have to show my
What?
porn tabs.
That's a that's a thing.
Yeah, there
Huh,
we go. And
fancy.
yeah, so we'll let's just see here. How can I want to interact, but it won't let me.
Church, everybody, give them a round of applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you much. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna take that off then. I don't want to look at McMahon's face that much. I mean, he's a great looking guy, but not it's not what we're here for. But anyway, we are like I said, it's $140,120 of the new goal to $200,000. Like it, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it everywhere you can. It's at 7.4 thousand shares right now. Nick Ricada mentioned that it would be great to get that up to like 10,000 and just get so much exposure that it would just blow the goal out of the water because there's so many people that are going to end up being served on this. Like from what he can tell, there's so many more people that could be served on this, but the time and the effort is going to cost a lot of money, and Vic lost a lot of money this year. He is looking for in excess of $1 million in damages. So anybody that could share that out, let everybody know. Come check this out. We're doing the whole get everybody to look at it, share it, add to it if they can. Um, Watch Nick Ricato's stream covering the issue. The man puts out such quality content that I'm actually upset that I have to do this show and stop listening to his show from last night. But I have a schedule. I stick to it. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I just would rather be listening to Nick Ricator right now.
Don't let him lie to you. He's playing it in the background on it.
I,
He's got an earbud in listening to it.
that is correct. That's why I just keep leaving the stream. Um, I I don't actually have children. I have a soundboard that I can just distract you with.
and, and my dumbass would probably fall for that.
Oh man, don't admit that on live streams, man. Gonna get clipped. It's gonna get clipped. But let's get down to
clip me all you
this.
want, fuckers. Huh?
Let's get back. Let's get down to the comparison.
Yeah.
So, first thing I would say, art-wise, I like the art of Amazing Spider-Man a lot, but I think it's better as far as just technical penciling goes and stuff like that. But I do really like the older DC art before there was so much digital coloring.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the art in it, especially it seemed more
And that's not to
trying to
disrespect.
think of the word.
Well, that's not to disrespect anybody that does straight digital art. That's not to disrespect anybody that does digital coloring. It's more of
No.
a nostalgia thing for me in comics themselves. The the early to mid 2000s they started doing a lot of digital coloring, and it wasn't well polished off until around the time of this. But this it doesn't have the personality, I don't think, that a lot of the old art did because of the way they used blacks and shadings and things like that, instead of being able to replicate all of these micro details with digital print and color.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The,
Like
yeah.
I feel like the technique had to get more elaborate because it was much easier to use these, and it does produce a much cleaner picture. But sometimes that older stuff is just better because of the nostalgia you get from it, and that DC 1 million was about the time I started reading comics regularly. I'd get one here and there, but it was about the time that I started having a full list. So I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. I had two comics every week that I would get. So
Yeah.
that
No,
that
I definitely agree with you. I like the hand penciled stuff too.
so that's well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure the pencils were done by hand, but I don't doubt that the inking and coloring was digital on the Amazing Spider-Man series. Um, I'm like I said, I'm not taking shit away from Joe Quesadilla as an artist. It's great art. Don't get me wrong. The details just so polished. It's really nice. But I like the technique on the second book more. As far as writing goes, Straczynski, hands down. You got me on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. It
I
just flowed way easier.
Right. I could follow that story. There weren't like 8 different side plots. Now, in the trade version of that, which is what I read, there are two sub, auxiliary comics, basically.
Yeah.
There are two old comics reprinted in this, and I think, like I said, we talked about them briefly earlier. The marriage of Peter Parker and the introduction to Mephisto. So I wanted to, briefly touch on those. Those were nice includes, but they weren't necessary to the story if you had been reading Spider-Man for any length of time. or had read a Marvel comic book in the last 20 years that was an event style book with Doctor Strange in it. Because Mephisto, he started popping up a lot in certain storylines for a while, and then they just kind of dialed back the use of him. So he's around enough to know who he is as a character without having to read his introduction, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, I like that. I have a couple of hard copy trade issues that have those little reprints like in the back and stuff, and I always enjoy reading them just
Yeah.
for that nostalgia of kind of like the how comics used to be.
Now,
Super hokey.
yeah. Well, um, now last thing on the aesthetics part of it, and the general quality of the writing before we get down to our arguments on concepts, because on concepts, I feel like 1 million wins in concepts that could have been good. But that's a personal feeling because I think that with a little fine tuning and you take out about 10 different auxiliary characters in this book and slim the number of side stories that are going on down to about three, and you've got something solid you could work with here. Like, I feel like this could be revisited and polished up a little bit.
Yeah, but I would say one more day. Just that, besides the ending, I think you don't really have to tweak anything to
I, well,
the concepts and themes in it.
how would you change it though? What would you change it to?
Well, something like what you said, like they figure out a way to like trick him or something like that.
Well, I think it,
Not just do like a cop out retcon just
well,
for the hell of it.
I think that is kind of
I don't know. I'm not a writer, so I.
well. There's two schools of thought that I saw a lot when this first happened. One was so that they could recycle the story of Peter Parker and Mary Jane meeting,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is what they did, because they just pulled a soft retcon anyway at the end of Secret War, which was just 3 years later. So this, you know,
Yeah, but I guess the whole that whole theme of like like trading your own happiness and like your life as it were in that moment for someone else's, that kind of moral conundrum and argument, I think is very very compelling.
yeah. But the thing is I think it was a little hokey in the sense that he was asking for their love, their marriage, instead of his soul.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the trope is the soul, and yes, I did appreciate that they explained, nah, I quit trading in souls for a while because that just makes you a martyr. I want something better. I want to take your love away from something under God because you were married in holy matrimony, blah 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 blah. But the idea is that they basically wrote this so that they could tell stories with a single Spider-Man that wasn't tied down with a wife and kids, because
Yeah.
they felt like that transition wasn't what readers were okay with. But we had been invested in these characters for a decade or more. Like, regular readers of Spider-Man at this time were in their 20s, 30s,
Yeah.
some even in their 40s.
Well,
There are 50-year-old men out there that have read Amazing Fantasy number 15 the week it came out.
I guess sure, putting it as like your love is hokey, but when you look at what actually happened when the deal went through, like his whole life basically reset. So he
Mm-hmm.
was basically trading the life he had
Mm-hmm.
for May's, not just like their love. Like it was kind of a hard reset on his whole
And
life.
and one of the
And
things that you didn't one of the things you didn't touch on was that the little girl was explained to be the kid that he's never going to have.
oh yeah,
I was kind of holding on to that one. until we got to the end because that's the yeah, the little girl was and the woman were going to be the daughter that he now never has. And we've seen Peter Parker's daughter in the future before. I don't know if anybody remembers M2, the imprint with you know J2 Juggernaut and you know the Amazing Spider Girl Mayday Parker. That was in what the 2000s, the early 2000s.
Yeah, I don't know.
But this was well before Spider Gwen. This was well before any of that stuff. And Spider Girl was again introduced in Earth X. So, I mean, let's see. Mayday, a What If. Yeah, she was in a What If. And then in 2008, MC2 imprint. Let's see. There we go. MC2 titles. Okay. Spider Girl started in 1998. It ran into July of 2006. So we've already had a Mayday Parker at this point. For we just haven't had her in 6 years as a regular character. Then there was another Spider Girl comic in 2010, just 2 years before this. It was called Spider-Man the or Spider Girl the End. The, so it just Happy Easter, Becky. Um, not quite Easter yet here. Yeah, still got 30 minutes. Don't eat all the peeps yet. Um, but anyway,
Yeah, I don't know. I find that kind of moral philosophical quandary personally a little bit more interesting than the sci-fi time travel concept of
you like the idea of what they were trying to do, but more than the implementation of it.
yeah,
I think that can be said for both books.
which is fair. And don't get me wrong, I love time travel sci-fi stuff,
Yeah.
but between the two, I like kind of that moral,
Oh.
hard-hitting moral quandary.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no, don't get me
Just
wrong.
a hair more.
Yeah. I mean, trust me. Like I said, this 1 million is a train wreck. I'm sorry. In my personal opinion, some of you may love it. It was good. It's the kind of train wreck that I can enjoy reading. I'm not going to remember it in a week. I'll remember reading it and I'll remember the key beats, but I won't remember some of the finer details of it. But I'll remember some of the finer details in one more day, absolutely. But I
Hell,
think,
I finished it an hour and a half ago, and I don't remember it.
well, you were trying to cram it.
I was trying to cram it.
I actually took my time and enjoyed it, but like I said, if you're not like paying like if you don't take notes on this book, you're gonna lose track of where the hell you like what the hell's going on, and you're gonna be reading it and be like, oh yeah, they're still in this book. I thought that could have been a dream because these books do take a little while to go through. That's why when you're like, I'm gonna read it, and I'm just like, yeah, he's not gonna be able to read it.
Hey, well, I did.
Did you though?
I did. I did.
Did you absorb any of it?
I would say so. I had a decent rant at the end there.
Yeah. Um. No, I understand. Like I said,
And
it it was something I hadn't read. I just saw the title, and I was just like, yeah, this is something we can do to kind of tie back into the Vic Mignogna thing. It just didn't work out
and
for me.
and one thing, like you mentioned when we were talking beforehand, if anything, it does, like, it makes me kind of curious about some of the characters, like the angel guy that I still can't remember his name, Zuriel,
Something like that. I don't.
something like that.
Yeah, I just called him G.
And then Kyle Rayner, which I've read a few things like with him in it, but I haven't really read many things that like really accent him as a Lantern. And I thought the scenes where it was really showing off like how he utilizes the ring while he was inside of Solaris, trying to dismantle him and cause him to
Right.
go supernova, they were fun.
Yeah.
Like he had the little boy with the slingshot and
The
like
little
tiny little construction workers like disassembling him.
little
Like
automatrons
yeah, like that stuff was fantastic, and that makes me want
trying to
to check.
encapsulate him in a big safe.
Yeah, that makes me want to check out more of Kyle Rayner's run as the Lantern, just because that stuff was cool.
Yeah, we can do that. Green Lantern's always been like one of my favorite titles, and Kyle Rayner's always had a close place in my heart because I got really big into Green Lantern when the Parallax Saga was going on. So my first introduction to Hal Jordan, he was kind of a murderous asshole. I was just like,
Fair enough.
huh, I don't know about this guy. I was a kid. I didn't know a whole lot about the backstory or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah,
I saw him kill a bunch of Green Lanterns and take their rings, and I was just like, huh, doesn't seem like he's actually a good guy anymore. And then Kyle
yeah,
Rayner started being the main Green Lantern because the rest of the Corps was just gone.
my first big introduction that I can remember was the Justice League cartoon with John Stewart.
But you want to talk about a retcon? They retconned it that Hal Jordan, oh, excuse me, that Hal Jordan had actually been possessed by the parallax entity from the yellow battery or the green battery, the yellow impurification. And because of that, when they gave Kyle Rayner a ring, his ring didn't have a yellow weakness.
It's just cuz.
It just yeah, just because. Hell,
Yeah, fair enough.
The original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, his ring was couldn't feck with wood.
Yeah,
It was wood.
that I know.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Then they eventually said that the yellow impurity was gone because the parallax was gone out of the battery, and then they changed it, and then Kyle Rayner became Ion. That's an interesting storyline
Hmm.
because originally when Hal Jordan was parallax, we're really off the bar right now. I think we've said what we were going to say about these books, but I mean, let's just kind of get back to that, and then we'll come back to Kyle Rayner. Um,
Yeah,
like I said, honestly, I'm gonna give it. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to the Amazing Spider-Man as being. If you're gonna read one of these, read Amazing Spider-Man one more day. If you want to see what some comics are like, that they're not the best, and this is the reason I kept mentioning the word crisis earlier is that DC has several storylines that are 8 to 12 issues. They have side issues that tie in. They encapsulate the whole of the DC universe for the most part, and they become what they call a crisis. And this is a mini series or a maxi series, whatever you want to call it. That it's essentially retcons the DC universe. The first one took the Infinite Universe and brought them back down to what, five? The second one, you got 52 worlds now that exist out there, 52 different universes. They change their retcons every 5 to 10 years to try and stay relevant and current instead of just writing the character. But then they change their numbering back so that they can use anniversary numbering like issue 1000 of Detective Comics. And I'm just like, what? You won't even release classic Detective Comics, the ones that are racist with the orange men, the orange Asians in there. I want to. That's what I
we
want
should.
to read.
Yeah,
Oh
we
man,
should do some of those.
those are hard to find, but I'll see what I can do.
All right.
Seriously, they're pulled from circulation. I'll have to see if I can get my hands on something.
Huh.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can legitimately find these books, or legitimately find these books.
But yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I would probably agree just from a basic story standpoint that One More Day kind of takes it with this one.
Right. I feel like
Just
1,000,000 was just too disjointed to enjoy as a read through without being a big comic fan and being able to put up
yeah,
with a lot of that shit.
yeah.
Like,
Now maybe if I was more familiar with DC Comics, it would have been easier to understand some of this stuff.
right.
Like I had no idea who the Angel guy was, and the chick that was trying to stop Steel from leaving the Watchtower.
Yeah,
I had no idea who
she's a new
those
god.
characters were.
She was a Jack Kirby
Oh, okay.
creation actually. Shame on you.
Oh, okay.
Shame.
Hey, I read like Green Lantern and a little bit of Flash. That was about it for my DC reading.
For shame. Nah, I'm just giving you hell.
But
I've just read a lot of comics. That's the thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and the kid Aquaman dude, I had no idea who that was. So
Tempest.
yes, thank you. So maybe if I was more familiar with some of like the greater DC universe, it might have been a little easier for me to follow.
Right.
But for like half of the first issue, I was just trying to figure out who these characters were and why they were here.
Who are you and who do you work for?
Basically.
Uh, anyway, no, like I said, if this is the storyline showdown, which our very first one, um, this is definitely going to Spider-Man. Now, what I think we should do is maybe have some kind of bracket system.
Oh, that could be interesting.
So we can uh, we can do like 4 or 5 of these, and then start putting some of the winners up against one another.
That could be fun. Have people vote on it on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll quote tweet my announcement or the link to this stream after it goes up, and see put a poll on it.
I can dig it.
So anyway,
That's another thing I say in DMs that I don't think anybody says anymore.
no, nobody says that. It makes me feel awkward and uncomfortable, and you should feel bad for it. But let's get back to talking about Kyle Rayner because that doesn't make me
Yeah.
angry. Yes, Becky, tomorrow is your birthday. I was waiting till it turned over to wish you happy birthday, but thanks for ruining it. Thanks, appreciate that. It's fine. Um, just kidding. Happy birthday. But
Happy birthday.
Kyle Rayner, he becomes Ion, then he gives up being Ion. Uh, what is it? What's his name? Mon-El, the Daxamite that's basically Superman with a weakness to lead instead of kryptonite.
Yeah,
He
I know who that is.
he becomes Ion. So it it's interesting. The Green Lantern mythos, it really takes a lot of dedication to keep up with. So I respect you
Yeah,
where that goes. Um,
I've read a lot of wikis on Green Lantern stuff, trying to follow it.
so just for anybody that's still here and might have missed it, tomorrow we are going to do the adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, the first 9 issues, and then later on we will do the auxiliary issues and the second volume that came out in 2008.
So excited.
Yeah, yeah, been looking forward to this. These are slightly longer, some of them, And so we're gonna spend a little bit more time talking about them because it is definitely it's probably one of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle parodies out there. I think.
Yeah. And if anybody likes like super cheesy, corny B movie like horror movies, you'll love these.
Yes, yes. One of them has a gun. I'll spoil that. One of them just straight up has a pistol.
I love it.
Yeah, like that's something I can give away. I think a man-sized hamster shooting a pistol and wearing an '80s punk visor is
And a mohawk.
and a mohawk is fantastic. Yes, don't forget the mohawk with
Oh man.
a black belt in gun fu. So everybody should
uh,
tune in for that. Atomic Denny's looking forward to it. I might see if he wants to come on and just react to
Hang
it.
out.
Yeah, react to it a little bit. Anybody else be more than interested? Just shoot me a DM on Twitter if you want to come on and talk about any particular storyline or anything like that.
I would love to get random people's reactions to that comic book.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We're gonna try and pimp that one a little harder tomorrow and let everybody know that it's gonna be a great time.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna shill the
Can
fuck out of that one.
can you see the reason that we couldn't lead off with radioactive hamsters? Hey, do you understand now? We can't
Yeah,
lead off with that and then finish the week off with this shit. We have to have a good time making fun of this and saying that God damn it, we have to say one more day is a good comic here. What the fuck?
I just got so confused. I also thought this week was Dead Man's 24-hour stream.
I
My
did
week
too.
and days are all fucked.
I did too. I don't know if they
So,
rescheduled it or if we were just wrong because well, that's what we do. But it is next week, and we will be there regardless.
at
Um,
2 in the morning.
2 in the
Thank you for
morning,
that, by the way.
2 to 4 in the morning. Hey, no
I
problem.
was told to blame you for that time slot.
Good, good. It'll be great. You can catch a nap. We don't have to do a show before it.
Yeah, but I have to work after
Hey, you know what? You can jump out early if you need to.
it. Nah, I'll be good.
I'll carry you over there too. It'll be fine. Oh, oh.
Hey.
No, I'm just messing with you. no,
I mean, this week, yeah, you did kind of have to carry me.
um, no, I'm just screwing with you, man. Amazing Spider-Man, One More Day, definitely the one I would suggest reading out of these two. I suggest reading all comic books, but if I had to pick one of these two to give somebody to read, especially if you don't read comic books that often, I'd give you One More Day
Yeah.
because it does have some really raw emotion. It does really have some really tearing moments where Peter just won't accept that Aunt May's gonna die, and he literally goes to hell and back to find an answer. I mean, it's kind of poetic like that. It wasn't. I don't think it was for the fans. I think it was for the writing staff. I think there was some kind of mandate at the time that we need to end marriages to characters because they're bad for sales. But
Well, yeah, if it's a dumb marriage like Black Panther and Storm,
I think that was dumb. I thought that made sense.
why? Because they're both African.
I mean, they're both considered deities, so kinda.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird, but
No, I mean I think they were trying to ship that relationship, and they could have made it work. I just don't think they did. But I don't think the concept of it was dumb. Let characters get married, replace them with younger characters. That's the average evolution of it. Don't be so worried about your
yeah,
copyright that you have to keep shipping characters as being younger and younger and younger every 10 years. That's weird. This person should be
you
getting
know,
older and being replaced. Not and you can keep them an adult for the 10 or 20 years that you have a teenage version of
yeah, or like how Disney remade Dumbo because their copyright's almost up and it was about to go into the public domain.
Right. But I mean,
Allegedly.
allegedly, yeah. I mean, Disney's the problem with public domain as it stands because that fucking mouse should be public domain by
Oh yeah, but they were somehow able to make it so a corporation could be owned by like an estate instead of like
now.
an individual or something like that.
Well, here's a really hot
They did
take.
some they did some fucky stuff back in the 60s.
Here's a really hot take. What if now, again, this is not to take anything away from anyone who is an indie comic creator and has an indie comic book on Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever. Um, even Renfamous, as much as I shit on her on Twitter, she's making a comic book. Good luck to her. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna support her. But good luck. If you go out there and you try and create something, I do wish you all the luck in the world, and I hope it's the best thing
Yeah.
you can put out for people. And I think that is why these comic books are so successful on these platforms and raise so much money over time. I mean, look at Cyberfrog, over $750,000. Cyberfrog eventually will reach $1 million in sales, if not before the second issue after it. And that's that's fantastic. And
Yeah.
what if these comic books are so successful because they're creating new characters with new possibilities with stories you don't know the way they're going to go? What if
Right.
Disney's policy and the comic book industry's policy of extending the licensing in the public domain, putting it off, is what's killing comic books because instead of having to create new characters, they've just gotten stuck selling Spider-Man.
Yeah, and you still get good stories, but you can if you know the character and like the backstories and stuff well enough, you kind of know what's gonna happen.
Well, after you read comics for 20 years, you kind of start to see the things that you know that they're never going to not let you put back in the toy chest.
Right.
There are
Like,
certain things. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say like Wolverine, he's gonna call somebody bub and then stab him in the face.
Right. They
Like,
they cut the cigars out, they cut the beer out, but
yeah, which pissed me off.
yeah, he's still going to be a Canadian brawler. Now, we might have some problems with that now in today's society.
Yeah.
But oh dear God, I wonder how far off this is. She just said I'm welcome. She might be a little bit behind on the stream. I don't know. I hope we're not that far behind. 'Cause, but anyway, no, you've got comic books out there that are just fantastic, and they make a lot of sense. And I don't even know where I was going with that. I just completely lost my train of thought.
Holding on to your copyrights
Right,
and stuff is what's
right. I think that the new creation of characters is what's more exciting, and I think that's why independent comic creators and independent publishers and titlers and what publishers, titlers, independent publishers and creators, even like IDW, who is supposedly failing now, but just Image Comics, those guys. I mean, all they do is they're a publisher. I think it's all creator owned stuff for a while. I think Image might own some stuff now. I don't really know how any of that works anymore. I haven't really cared. I've just wanted to read good comic books. That's
yeah.
pretty. I used to want to be like I used to want to be like one of these internet people that keeps up with all those numbers and all those facts and that news. Man, I just started getting more and more upset. It was just so bad. But in the end, I think that comics get creators are successful because they're creating stuff that people want with characters that are just not so cliche at this point that you don't already know what's going to happen with
Yeah.
them. And I hope that continues, and I hope the industry takes notice and creates some very exciting new characters in the near future.
Maybe actually kill some characters off for good.
They'll never go that far.
I know.
I mean, there's always going to have to be a Spider-Man comic. I like that they have Miles Morales now. Don't I like that they have two Spider-Men. I might be in the minority, but there
Yeah,
there
I
have
mean,
been some
I,
good
I don't
stories
I
with
don't mind
Miles.
Miles. Yeah, I don't mind him. I think he can be fun.
I
Being super young and really inexperienced
I
kind
kind
of
of
adds a new twist to it.
I kind of drew the line at Spider Gwen.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, now we're pushing it. We got single Spidey, we got minority Spidey, we got girl Spidey, we got married with kid Spidey.
We have Spider Ham.
Yeah, Noir Spider Man. I wish they would have given us that series. I'd have read that.
Noir Spider Man, I think, is my favorite out of all the iterations of him.
I mean, I do believe there is a Noir Spider Man comic out there.
Yeah, there is.
I just wish we had gotten
It's
another iteration of it.
yeah. Well,
That
I think there were two actually Noir Spider Man stories out of that whole like noir universe. I think he was the only one that got two stories.
no.
But
Little aside, at one point there were some screenshots going around like Reddit and Instagram of these comic panels. It was a Pokemon story. It was called Poke Noir, and Giovanni was just a bad motherfucker, and he made an
oh,
electrode explode on people and kill them, and police were
I
after
need
them, and it was very strange.
I need to Google this.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
But
I'm doing it right now.
I don't know that he ever completed a series of it, and that made me sad. I would have bought it. So, um, we got about 3 minutes left in the show. So I did want to say that we are still pointing people to the link in the description, the GoFundMe.com/FitKicksBack.
Do it.
Yeah, go give him some money, or share the link, or share it in your DMs with somebody that you think would share it with other people. Um, pull it up on your stock accounts, all that good stuff. Um, Plaster it up on your high school billboards. Picture of Broly behind it. Whatever. There are weebs that go to school that want to give other weebs money,
Yeah.
but you know, like I said, I know $140,000 is a lot, and it always takes more. Not that Ty Beard's gouging him an arm and a leg, but like you said, you heard him. He said his hourly rate is $400 an hour. So I mean, that 140,000 is going to be gone real quick.
Oh yeah.
And I mean,
Whoever's good at math can do that in their head quickly.
and well, not even that. I mean, you got to worry about. Okay, damn you. uh, nope, not doing it. Something like 200 hours or something like that, I believe. Maybe a little more. I don't know. A little less. I have a calculator on this computer. I'm just I'm too tired. There's 2 minutes left in the show. I'm not doing it. I'm not spending the last minute on air doing calculator stuff. Fight me. I'll spend the
I
last minute
almost
on
got you to
air.
do it though.
I spend my last minute on air yelling at you about how I'm not going to use a calculator. How about that?
Hey, I mean that's pretty typical, right? You got to yell at me about something.
I'll have to yell at somebody about something. I'm just glad you take it so well. You're a good sport.
Eh,
I
you
couldn't
know.
have, I couldn't have found a better co-host.
Well,
You get
I
yelled
wouldn't
at
go
really.
that far.
You get yelled at real well.
Hey, that's what vodka and orange soda does.
Oh, there you go. The carbonated screwdriver, if you will.
Yeah, that's all I had.
All right, all right. Well, what kind of orange soda is it?
I think it was Fago.
All right, okay. I'm just gonna leave that alone. Honk honk.
Hey, I live in Michigan. I can't help it. That's what's around here.
Do you know what Fago used to be?
What it used to be?
Yeah, it used to be cake icing.
Really?
Yep,
I did not know that.
yep. They used to
I
make
don't
cake
listen
icing.
to I I don't listen to IPC enough to care what Fago used to be.
Hmm.
So
I used to at one point in my life, and it was awful. I felt bad. But anyway, that'll
please somebody clip that.
yeah, yeah. Please don't. Oh my. Anyway, that'll wrap it up. I do want to say happy birthday to Becky in the chat. Happy Easter to everyone else. I believe she's boycotting Easter, um, but she still wants Peep, so I don't think you can have it both ways, Becky.
No, no, you can't.
But I appreciate everybody coming out and hanging out with us. We will be back on tomorrow for the adolescent black belt hamster or adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters 1 through 9.
Which I am way more prepared for.
I don't believe him, but anyway, you guys have a good night and thank you again.